Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Radiantly Feminine podcast, where we embrace elegance, confidence, and the power of true femininity. I'm your host, Mookie. So whether you're looking to refine your presence, elevate your mindset, or even navigate relationships with ease, this is going to be your space to grow and glow. So sit back, relax, and let's unlock your feminine power together. Hey everyone, welcome back to the podcast. I just want to say that I took a look at the analytics for the show today and I was pleasantly surprised to see that we have so many new listeners. I am so excited. We are now getting paid promotions. So thank you guys so much. I just want to say this because I want to thank you guys so much for listening. It honestly motivates me to keep putting episodes out there to help you guys better yourselves and just to live the lives that you are meant to live. So I really just want to take this time before we get into the episode to truly thank you guys from the bottom of my heart. I want to welcome all the new subscribers and listeners and followers. I don't know what to call you guys just yet, but I do want to just thank you so much. It's truly it warms my heart. I was so happy that made my day just seeing the analytics today because it's not something I check often. But I got some advice to check it more often, so that's what I plan on doing. But I was pleasantly surprised to see so many new followers and listeners tuning in, so thank you guys so much. I hope you guys like this episode. Let's go ahead and get right into it because today's episode is for anyone who's ever been stuck in that cycle of trying to figure out what someone means to them or what they mean to another person, what their silence means, or what their mixed signals mean. You know, that space where you're left to deal with ambiguity, that guessing, the overthinking, the constant analysis of vague energy. So today, I want to be really honest with you. Trying to decode someone's vague behavior is emotional labor you were never meant to carry, especially not as a woman who is rooted in her feminine energy. So let's go ahead and talk about it because we as a collective need to do better and acknowledge that we are too good to keep dealing with this type of nonsense. So let's go ahead and get into it. When we're constantly trying to interpret someone's lack of clarity, we tend to think we're being intuitive. We think we're picking up on the vibe or whatever you want to call it, or being emotionally intelligent. But what we're actually doing is working overtime to create meaning when someone else is withholding their clarity. And I've talked about this in the episode about maintaining healthy friendships. Both people that are involved in a connection should try their best to reduce ambiguity to keep the connection healthy. And here's the truth. If someone wants you to understand their intentions, they will always make them clear. I want you to just take a second and think about that. Do you take time out of your day to hide your good intentions? No. When you are forced to decode something instead of receiving direct communication, what's really happening is this. You're, one, stepping into your masculine energy by initiating, fixing, and analyzing the situation. You're, two, giving emotional access to someone who clearly hasn't earned that level of effort from you. And three, you're slowly disconnecting yourself from your feminine center, which is your ability to just be, to receive, to feel safe, and to feel guided. So you're just taking yourself away from all of that and putting yourself under unnecessary stress. Feminine energy will never thrive in confusion and illusions. It thrives in clarity, safety, and emotional attunement. So every time you convince yourself to wait and see or read between the lines, you're not just being patient, you're negotiating your standards for your peace. And I would like to encourage you all to check out my favorite book. It's called The Four Agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz. I talk about this with pretty much everybody, but it's a self-help book that talks about limiting beliefs that we all create in our early in life, and how they are established when we create agreements. So this book teaches us the importance of reparenting ourselves in a way by establishing new agreements so that we can replace those old ones that we made when we were younger, because who's the same from when they were younger? I'll wait. But I bring this up because one of the four agreements talks about how you should not make assumptions. And this is important because we can all easily fall into the trap of making assumptions when we do receive vague signals, especially in dating. When we find ourselves making excuses like, he's probably just busy, or maybe he's afraid to show how he really feels, or they didn't mean it like that. And when we assume, we start creating a narrative that fills in the blanks of someone else's behavior. We build an emotional connection on a foundation of what we hope they meant, not what they actually showed us. But here's the truth. I want you guys to listen closely. Here's the truth. Assumptions are the imagination of anxiety, not the wisdom of intuition. And when you're constantly trying to interpret someone's actions or their silence, you're in your head. You're not in your body, and you're definitely not being present in the present moment. That's masculine energy. You're stepping into your masculine energy, and that's most likely your wounded masculine energy. And it puts you in that fix it, figure it out, and let me make sense of this mode. Now, feminine energy, on the other hand, stays grounded in the present, not focused on what might be. In other words, when you are staying rooted in your femininity, you don't assume, you just use your discernment. So, the question of the day, the big question of the day is, how can we stop making assumptions? You can, one, stay with what is shown, not what is being said. If his actions don't match what he's saying, believe his behavior, not the illusion he's trying to paint with his words. Number two, ask yourself, do I have enough information to move forward? If the answer is no, you need to pause. And after that pause, do not chase clarity. Decide that you require it. It should be the bare minimum. Number three, let clarity come through behavior, not potential. And this means that if you are doing mental gymnastics to explain his inconsistency, that's not clarity. It's confusion dressed up as hope. And I don't care if you're explaining this to yourself, to other people, your friends, or your family members. I don't care who you're explaining this to. If you have to do those mental jumps, those mental gymnastics to explain his inconsistency and recreate a narrative of it being, oh, it's just this instead of that, you're making the confusion and dressing it up as hope. You're taking that confusion and dressing it up as hope. And I have a quote that I found to help serve as a reminder. You are not here to figure him out. You are here to feel safe, seen, and chosen. If you have to decode it, it's not aligned. I'm not sure who that quote is by, but I love it, and I thought it would be perfect to add into this episode. So, I just want you to know that when you stop assuming, you start observing. And when you start observing, you start detaching from someone's potential. And that's where your feminine energy truly gets to rest and rise, because you are not wasting your time and energy on someone's potential. You're seeing people for who they are and who they choose to present themselves as, and you are taking it just for that. You are not taking their words, the illusions that they're painting with their words. You're not putting all your time and energy and effort into someone's potential. You are just taking it as it is and choosing from there. Now, let's be real. It's so easy to fall into that decoding mode, especially when you're emotionally invested in someone's inconsistent behavior and you try to stick it out and you stick around wondering why and when things went bad in the first place. You can step into decoding mode when you've been taught to understand where he's coming from more than you've been taught to ask if you feel safe. And it could be very easy to fall into decoding mode if you think you're protecting yourself by anticipating red flags early. But what's actually happening is you're actually normalizing emotional confusion. You're actually becoming so skilled at interpreting breadcrumbs that you forgot what it feels like to be fed a full meal. And the moment you realize that, it hits. You realize that you're not actually confused because you might have missed something. You're confused because they were not clear. And that's not even your burden to carry. I want to say this again. It's so easy to slip into decoding mode when you're in your feminine energy because by nature, we are deeply attuned to reading in between the lines. And this can be because when we are in our feminine energy, we are intuitive and receptive, as we should be. And this allows us to naturally pick up on tone shifts, micro expressions, pauses, and subtext, and all of the above. It's literally like having an emotional radar that is always turned on. As women, we are conditioned to nurture and connect, which often means trying to understand others before they even explain themselves. And that can easily morph into overanalyzing if we are not careful. And for us, ambiguity can feel like a puzzle. And when we embody our feminine energy, that comes with curiosity and emotional intelligence. So we'll naturally want to solve that puzzle so the connection feels safe and certain, so that we can feel safe to remain in our feminine energy. And in our society, women especially are usually taught to make themselves responsible for keeping the harmony going, which can make decoding feel like a part of the job all on its own. But the key is learning that your intuition shouldn't be used to translate unclear behavior. Instead, it should be used to decide. And that will sound like, this isn't clear, so I'm not engaging until it is. So, what happens when you stop trying to decode vague behavior? You will stop negotiating your peace. You will stop chasing clarity that should have been offered and not earned. And the most important and powerful one of them all is you'll notice that your standards will naturally rise, which is my favorite part. Because once your feminine energy gets a feel of how calm life is without constant guessing, it doesn't want to go back. And I want to add, I probably talked about this before, but I want to add that Dr. Joe Dispenza said our bodies become addicted to stress hormones or adrenaline. And that means certain hormones and chemicals are released when we are under stress. So instead of us doing things to mitigate future stress, when we're addicted, we will subconsciously look for certain situations so that our bodies can keep chasing that next high, which is the stress hormones or the adrenaline. So this means you will keep going back to that toxic ex and not really know why. But it takes you actively choosing to want better in order to start receiving better for yourself. And Dr. Joe Dispenza explained that this kind of behavior, through the lens of how our brain and body get wired by past experiences. So that means our brains and bodies crave familiarity, even if that familiarity is toxic or stressful. And that's because our nervous system creates a conditioned response to our environment and the emotions tied to it. We also develop these emotional patterns that become automatic. So when we encounter vague signals or stress, our body reacts based on those old patterns, which help to pull us back to what feels known, even if it's unhealthy. He also explained that our bodies remember the chemistry of past experiences, sometimes more than our conscious mind wants to admit. So our brains seek the same chemical, well, or reward in order to feel a sense of identity or connection. And I bring this all up because one, I love Dr. Joe Dispenza, but two, if you've experienced vague signals recently and felt a strong need to decode it, or go back to the situation that was very vague, odds are that wasn't the first time you even experienced it, because vague signals can trigger unconscious memories or cravings because they mirror past situations, which lead us to seeking resolution or what's familiar, even if it causes us pain. But rest assured, if you want to break free, all it requires is rewiring your brain, which will involve learning how to respond differently. You'll have to practice new emotional states and become aware of how your body feels in order to create new and healthier habits. So, to sum that all up, Dispenza says we're often trapped by our own neurobiology until we consciously change our internal state and recondition our bodies. And I've done this by first watching his show Rewired on the streaming app called Gaia. I read his books and purchased his guided meditations. Some of the meditations are available on YouTube. I've listened to them. I like to listen to them when I sleep sometimes. And if you want to check it out before purchasing any of his the things that he sells. I'm just losing my track of thought, sorry. But some of his meditations are on YouTube is what I'm trying to say. I was also thinking about dedicating an episode or two to simplify his teachings, but I'm still working on that idea, so I will let you guys know when I'm further down that line. Anyways, let's get back on topic. You will start recognizing that you don't want someone who just likes you, just to simply keep you around. You'll want someone who's clear, available, and present with you. Feminine energy does not beg. It's going to feel super unnatural for you when you start to embody your feminine energy. It doesn't interpret, it doesn't feel the need to decode anything. It doesn't sit in limbo, it receives or it withdraws. And when you have embodied that energy, you will realize that unclear energy isn't attractive, it's actually exhausting to deal with. I want to tell you all that you can actually use your feminine energy to shift away from toxic or stressful patterns, especially those that are triggered by vague signals. It's all about tuning into your intuition, setting those gentle but firm boundaries, and embodying self-worth. So let's elaborate on that really quickly because I think it's really important. Feminine energy is deeply intuitive, so when vague signals arise, instead of jumping into that decoding mode or trying to chase clarity, all you have to do is just lean into your inner knowing, and that's your intuition. So try asking yourself, how does this really feel to me? Try paying attention to those subtle emotional nudges or physical sensations in your body that come up when you ask that question, and allow your intuition to guide your decisions rather than overthinking or reacting to the outside noise. Now, for me, it was very easy to confuse anxiety and intuition, but anxiety is the mind's fear-based noise. It spins stories of what if and keeps you stuck in worry or fear-based thinking. And intuition is that quiet inner knowing. It's a calm, clear feeling that guides you without pressure or panic. And anxiety, it pushes and pulls you into overthinking, while your intuition simply is. It offers gentle guidance you can trust. And once I learned the difference between anxiety and intuition, anxiety started to feel more like panic and rush, and I just had to fix it immediately because it made me feel very panicky. And intuition felt like a whisper or a gentle guide, I just knew. It was just this deep inner knowing, and it was very gentle and it wasn't loud or anything. It was kind of like a whisper. So after you decide, or after you realize the difference between anxiety and intuition, if you didn't before, next you'll need to focus on your boundaries. I want to be the one to tell you that your boundaries don't have to be harsh or aggressive. Feminine energy sets clear lines while maintaining kindness and softness. So just keep that and in the back of your mind when you are setting boundaries. They don't have to be harsh or aggressive. They can be kind and soft and still meaningful and clear. So focus on recognizing when someone doesn't serve your peace, and try to communicate that or what you will and won't accept in a calm, confident way. And doing that will help protect your energy by choosing what to engage with and what to release. So, after learning to listen to your intuition and setting boundaries in a calm way, your next focus will be on your self worth and self love. When you value yourself deeply, you will naturally attract healthier energy and situations. Feminine energy radiates magnetism rooted in self respect. So, this means prioritize your own well being emotionally, mentally, and physically. Choose to celebrate your uniqueness without comparing yourself or competing with others, and know that you deserve relationships and environments that uplift you. I've had so many people ask me, like, how do you do this? How do you do that? How do you attract this? How do you attract that? It all starts from within. You have to change your inner world before you can change your outer reality. And the last things you'll need to focus on in order to use your feminine energy to shift away from toxic or stressful patterns is stop suppressing your emotions. This is a huge one because when you're in your feminine energy, your emotions are able to flow freely. And when you are suppressing your emotions, you are suppressing your feminine energy. So stop suppressing your emotions and create a sacred space for yourself. I feel like I've talked about these two things multiple times on this show by now, but your feminine energy should be used to embrace emotional flow instead of resisting it. So this means try to feel what arises without judgment. then release what no longer serves you. You can use practices like journaling, meditation, or creative expression to process your feelings. I, for one, love to draw. I love to paint. I'm also taking up piano. So those are the ways that I use my creative expression to process my feelings. And be sure to let your emotions guide you to clarity rather than more confusion. And it's important to make time for yourself. So try to carve out moments for rest, reflection, and renewal to help you reconnect with your authentic self. And this will nurture your feminine energy and build resilience against toxic patterns. So, here's what I want you to remember. If he's leaving you in the dark, it's not your job to find the light switch. Instead, I want you to start asking yourself, why am I trying to figure out what he feels instead of asking myself what I feel? Because if we're being completely honest with one another, that's the same thing as putting his needs before your own. You can also ask yourself, does this situation make me feel grounded or guarded? Or is this person clear, or am I the one doing the emotional heavy lifting? These questions are important because once you stop decoding and start using your discernment, the game changes completely and the ball is in your court. And that, my lovely listeners, is such a powerful thing because shifting from people pleasing and self sacrifice to being able to embody higher feminine standards is truly a journey of reclaiming your authentic self. When I decided this shift needed to happen, I had no idea where to start. I listened to podcasts, I read so many self improvement books, I did a lot. But I'm glad I did because I can provide you all with a roadmap so that you can know exactly where to start to create this shift in your life as well. So I'm going to just go down the list that I wrote. Step number 1, start by recognizing the conditioning. So it's super important. It's super imperative that you understand that people pleasing and self-sacrifice aren't your true nature. They are actually learned survival strategies. You learn to keep the peace. You maybe grew up in chaotic environments or toxic households. I don't know. But this is something that was learned to help you survive and to soothe your nervous system without regulating it, if that makes sense. And just knowing this helps you separate your authentic feminine energy from those old patterns. Step number 2, start small with your boundaries. You don't have to overhaul everything overnight. Begin by setting tiny boundaries, saying no to small requests or expressing your preferences gently. Each small act builds your comfort and confidence, and you'll be able to set boundaries like a queen in no time. Step number 3 is reframe your self-love as strength, not selfishness. And this is when your higher feminine standards honor your worth and your needs. So loving yourself is not selfish at all. It's essential. When you care for yourself first, you have more to give authentically without causing yourself to burn out. I also used to feel bad for setting boundaries. So if your boundaries cause people to become upset and you think it's going to ruin the connection, then baby, they were benefiting from your lack of boundaries. And that's all to it. So step number 4 is practice compassion for yourself. Now, I want you guys to know that shifting patterns does take time. So please, please, please be gentle when old habits do creep back in because they will. They will come up and you'll be like, I just want to go back to the old me. Like it felt more safe. It felt more comfortable, yada, yada, yada. They will creep back in. And instead of judging yourself for slipping up, remind yourself that growth is a process, not perfection. Step number 5, surround yourself with supportive energy. So this means try connecting with people who respect your boundaries and encourage your growth. Because like I said with step number 2, people who do not like your boundaries are benefiting from your lack of boundaries. And positive influences make it easier to embody your higher standards without doubt or guiltiness. Step number 6, anchor your feminine essence. Try spending time turning into your inner wisdom, your creativity, and your intuition. So you can do this by meditating, journaling, or movement practices like dance and exercise. And these can all help you reconnect with your core feminine energy that's already inside you and just waiting to be fully expressed. Now, I want you guys to know that this kind of shift is not easy. I think I've said it already, but it is not easy, and it definitely takes time. It takes patience and it takes commitment. And I know everyone's mindset is different, but I do want to share some additional things to help you stay on the path of this new shift. But the commitment is really going to be huge. You're not going to be able to show up every day with this new mindset. It takes time and it takes repetition for this new mindset to stick. So even if you have your off days, just focus on the bigger goal and just focus on staying committed. You're not going to be able to show up every day, and that is okay. So, the first thing I want you guys to know is you have to be able to remind yourself that discomfort and resistance are natural parts of growth. So, it's kind of normalizing discomfort and resistance, especially in the beginning. Everyone hits bumps and moments of doubt, and no, that doesn't mean you are failing, it means you are evolving. And you also need to remember to celebrate all of your wins, especially the small ones. Just give yourself a pat on the back each time you do something, even if no matter how big or how small. I want you guys to just give yourself a pat on the back. I want to encourage you to notice and celebrate every little step forward, even if it's a tiny baby step. Even when you set a small boundary or choose your self-care over old habits, that is all progress that's worthy of praise. For me, I used to like partying pretty much every weekend, and it was hard for me to step away from that. I like partying, I like drinking, I like letting my hair down, I like having fun, I like dancing with my friends. Like, it was all fun, but I had to leave that part of my life behind in order to go towards what I was better aligned with my goals, my future goals. So I had to let that go. And I did have moments where people would invite me out, and I had to find something else to do to distract myself. So I started heavily doing self-care just to remind myself that I needed to take care of myself, because partying and drinking was not in the slightest a healthy decision at all. So and it meant that I wasn't taking care of myself. Yes, it was fun, but I wasn't taking care of myself in a healthy way. So it's hard. Those things are going to come up. But I just wanted to share that short little example with you guys because that is something that I personally struggled with. But once I got over that huge hump, that obstacle, I was able to, it was just smooth sailing from then. I still go out every now and then, but it's not often. It's not every weekend like it used to be. But I do like to go out and have fun in other ways as well. And it took me stepping away from partying to realize that. Now, I know everyone's mindset is different, so it is definitely okay for you to adapt any advice and tips that you receive. And most importantly, I want you to remember your why. Remember your goals and constantly remind yourself that you'll come out better than you started. Because it can be discouraging, especially if you're not seeing changes or the results you want to see right away. It's a lot like working out. You know that you're not going to see results right away, but you know that if you stay consistent and remember your why, then you will see the results of your actions later on. You will trust the process in the new shift this way. So, whether it's about curating more peace, joy, authentic relationships, or respect, holding that vision can fuel your persistence. So, we're about to end this episode, but I want you all to know that you don't need to force understanding where there is none. You don't need to keep proving to other people that you are emotionally intelligent by reading between every single line and picking up on sudden shifts and cues and whatever they throw at you. Because the most powerful shift you can make in dating is deciding that you will no longer entertain anyone who makes your peace feel like it's negotiable. So let your feminine energy rest. Allow your standards to rise naturally, and let clarity and consistency be the new bare minimum. Because once your nervous system learns what emotional safety feels like, it will stop confusing chaos with chemistry. I want to thank you all so much for listening today. Whether you're listening while you're in the car, while you're running some errands, while you're relaxing, or while you're on your hot girl walk, I want you all to know that I greatly appreciate it. Please don't forget to follow the show if you haven't done so already. And please rate and comment on this episode because it helps us reach more amazing ladies such as yourself. Thanks again for listening. I love you guys so much, and I'll talk to you next week. Bye.